Imagine a massive wooden ship docked in a harbor. It is a vessel of war, celebrated for its voyages and the battles it has survived. Over the decades, the salt water begins to corrode the hull. The moisture rots the oak planks. The wind tears the linen sails. To maintain the ship, the dock workers replace the decaying parts one by one. When a plank rots, it is removed and a fresh piece of timber is hammered into its place. When a mast splinters, a new log is hewn and installed. This process continues for 30 years. Eventually, there is not a single original piece of wood, nail, or cloth remaining on the vessel. Every atom of the structure has been swapped out. Now, consider a second scenario. Imagine that an obsessive scavenger collected every single discarded plank, every rusted nail, and every torn scrap of sail that the dock workers threw away. In a warehouse nearby, this scavenger reassembled the original parts, rotting and corroded, into the exact shape of the ship. You are now presented with two ships. One is floating in the harbor, made entirely of new material, but functioning perfectly. The other is sitting in a warehouse, made of the original material, but decaying and useless. The question is, which one is the real ship? This is not a hypothetical puzzle designed to waste your time. This is the paradox of the ship of Theseus, recorded by the Greek historian Plutarch, to describe the nature of identity over time. You are the ship. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is a biological reality. The cells in your body are being replaced by new ones all the time. From a material standpoint, the person you were 10 years ago is dead. There is almost no physical continuity between that version of you and the current version of you. Yet, you possess a continuous sense of self. You believe you are the same entity. This continuity does not exist in your flesh. It exists in the pattern. The ship is not the wood. The ship is the organization of the wood. However, this biological mechanism reveals a flaw in how you perceive your own personality. You tend to view your identity as a static object. You say, "I am a procrastinator," or "I am not a morning person," as if these are immutable properties of your genetic code. This is incorrect. Your identity is simply the current configuration of your neural pathways, reinforced by repetition. Just as the ship is maintained by the constant replacement of planks, your identity is maintained by the constant repetition of thoughts and actions. If you stop repeating a behavior, the neural pathway degrades. The plank rots. If you introduce a new behavior, a new pathway forms. The plank is replaced. You are not a fixed object. You are a process. The pain you feel, the brain fog, the hesitation, the imposter syndrome, stems from a specific mechanical failure we will call identity lag. Identity lag is the temporal dissonance between who you are acting like and who you believe you are. Consider the mechanism of a thermostat. It reads the temperature of the room and activates the furnace until the reality matches the setting. Your brain functions similarly, but there is a delay. You often set your identity based on past evidence that is no longer relevant, or future intentions that have not yet happened. Most people suffer from the latter. You judge yourself by your intentions, while reality judges you by your actions. You intend to be a writer, yet you spent 4 hours scrolling through a social media feed today. You intend to be an athlete, yet your resting heart rate has increased by 5 beats per minute over the last year. This creates friction. Your internal self-image says, "I am productive." But the external data points say, "You are stagnant." This discrepancy creates a psychological voltage called cognitive dissonance. To resolve this tension, you have 2 options. Option 1 is to lower your standards to match your behavior. You admit you are lazy, This is painful but stable. Option 2 is to alter your behavior to match your standards. This is difficult and unstable. Most people choose a third dysfunctional option. They hallucinate. They ignore the data. They tell themselves that the scrolling was research, or that the missed workout was recovery. They maintain a rotting ship in the warehouse and insist it is seaworthy, while the real ship in the harbor is slowly drifting away. You feel stuck because you are trying to steer a ship that acts on physics with a wheel made of intentions. Aristotle approached this problem with a level of clinical detachment that modern self-help often lacks. He did not view character as a hidden treasure to be discovered within the soul. He viewed it as a byproduct. In the Nicomachean Ethics, he argues that virtues are not innate. We acquire them by exercising them. He states, "We become builders by building, and we become harpists by playing the harp." This sounds simple, but the implication is aggressive. It suggests that you are not what you think. You are what you do. If you do not build, you are not a builder, regardless of your talent or your degree. If you do not play the harp, you are not a harpist, regardless of how much you love music. Aristotle suggests that excellence is not an act, but a habit. This aligns with the mechanics of the ship of Theseus. The ship is defined by the history of its maintenance. If the dock workers replaced the wood with styrofoam, it would cease to be a ship and become a raft. If you replace your hours of deep work with hours of low-level dopamine consumption, you cease to be a professional and become a consumer. The philosophical trap you fall into is essentialism. You believe there is an essence of you that remains untouched by your daily choices. You think you can spend 10 years in a state of distraction and still essentially be a focused person waiting to emerge. Aristotle rejects this. There is no essence waiting to emerge. There is only the history of your actions. You are the sum of your habits. If you want to change the ship, you do not pray for new wood. You swap the plank. To correct identity lag, we must move from a system of intentions to a system of proof. We will use a tool called the evidence log. The human brain is an unreliable narrator. It deletes memories of your failures and amplifies memories of your successes to protect your ego. This distortion prevents you from seeing the ship as it actually is. You need objective data. For the next 7 days, you will not try to change your behavior. You will simply record it. Every time you cast a vote for a specific identity, you write it down. If you eat a donut, you write, "Vote for unhealthy identity." If you write 500 words, you write, "Vote for writer identity." If you react with anger to a minor inconvenience, you write, "Vote for reactive identity." Do not judge the data. Do not try to optimize your day. Just log the votes. At the end of the week, look at the ledger. This is the current state of your ship. If you see 50 votes for distracted consumer and 2 votes for creative producer, you cannot argue with the math. You are not a creative producer who is having a bad week. You are a distracted consumer who occasionally creates. This brutal honesty is necessary. You cannot navigate if you do not know where you are. The evidence log forces you to acknowledge the material reality of your vessel. Once you accept the current state of the ship, you must begin the process of replacing the planks. You cannot replace them all at once. If you strip every plank from the hull simultaneously, the ship sinks. You must use the procedural override. This tool ignores motivation and relies on mechanical friction. Motivation is a biological emotion that fluctuates based on glucose levels, sleep quality, and external stress. It is a poor fuel source for structural change. Instead of relying on how you feel, you will manipulate the environment to make the desired action the path of least resistance. Identify one plank you wish to swap. Let us say you want to stop checking your email immediately upon waking. This is the reactive plank. You want to replace it with a proactive plank. Do not promise yourself you will do better. That is an intention. Instead, introduce a mechanical override. Buy an analog alarm clock. Move your phone charger to the kitchen. Lock the phone in a drawer. Now, the physical sequence of events required to check your email has changed. You must wake up, walk to the kitchen, unlock a drawer, and plug in the device. You have added friction to the old habit. Conversely, place a book or a notebook on your bedside table. You have removed friction from the new habit. You are not relying on willpower. You are relying on architecture. You are engineering a situation where the new identity is the logical outcome of the environment. Do this for one habit at a time. Do not multitask. Replace one plank. Hammer it in. Secure it. Only then do you move to the next. The ship of Theseus teaches us that identity is not a destination. It is a maintenance schedule. You are never finished. You are never fully healed or optimized. You are simply a vessel in a constant state of repair. If you stop replacing the rotting wood, the ship sinks. If you stop reinforcing the habits that serve you, your identity degrades. This is not a cause for despair. It is a cause for liberation. It means you are not defined by your past. The rotting planks of your history can be removed. The structural failures of your character can be repaired. You do not need to find yourself. You need to build yourself. One plank at a time, one action at a time. The ship is yours to design. Begin the repairs.